Welcome once again to your program. This is Yorubaref. And remember that the topic we're treating is federalism, the journey so far. You might come across some additional titles on some of our postings when you see them. So let me first greet people that where they are now is on a Sunday. Happy Sunday to you. And I know that there are some countries that may probably still be in on a Saturday. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for those that are watching us and those that will be joining this program. My name is Samuel Oluwadamilare Yerokun. And obviously I've got Alagba Femi or Dedeyi from Yoruba Referendum on the program today.
Yeah, thank you very much, and happy to be here. Alagba Samuel Oluwadamilare Yoruba. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So for those that are joining us, the program is being on, and I think we're on, is it the 10th or the 11th?
It should be the 13th.
Or the 13th, yeah. 13th, so the 13th, please check our YouTube page. You'll be able to see the recordings for the previous sessions that we've had. We will continue discussion about Nigeria, federalism, and of course, Yoruba referendum thoughts and approach to resolving the foundational problem of Nigeria. As you all know, Nigeria comprised of maybe over 200, maybe 250 different ethnic nationality. And people have continually stated this, that until that issue of nationality is resolved, we may be very far from daylight in Nigeria. Last week, we did mention at the closing that today we will be looking at the question, are Yoruba too liberal? And when we talk about liberal, Alagba Femi Odedeyi is going to help us with that terminology, because at times you have some terminologies that might have a different meaning when you look at them within the prism of just educational English. But when you bring them into politics, they may have additional meanings. And then when you take them into economy or some other sectors of life, they may have additional meanings. So, Alagba Femi Odedeyi is the big question.
Yes.
The Yoruba people are one of the major ethnic nationality in Nigeria. Yes. And over time, that ethnic nationality, Yoruba, have played very important roles in what Nigeria is today and how Nigeria became what it is today. Looking at from the time the colonial masters came in, the signing of the treaty, right down to the formation of political parties, right down to independence, the fight for independence, the new Nigeria at independence, and a couple of governments and sessions that we have gone through. We've got even there are period of times when it goes to what you can call a crescendo for the Yoruba people. You can talk about the time of Awolowo. You can also talk about the time of Ifemkeo Abiola. And of course, now you can also talk about that of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Yeah. But the question that has been raging on with what has been happening in the country is that it seems to be only Yoruba among the three major ethnic nationality that you're hardly seeing moving en masse into another region or claiming to own part of another ethnic nationality region or boundaries. They seem to be comfortable with their space within the Southwest majorly, although we do have the people of Kwara and Kogi, which are Yoruba people, but majorly they hold the Southwest, and we'll say it seems that they are comfortable right within that Southwest. However, they've also seen what some people say is a virtue, but it seems that it's becoming a curse, if we can put it that way. They are hospitable, they are willing to bring people in, and it seems that today, some of those guests are making claims to Yoruba ancestral lands. We've also seen people have also pointed to the area of marriage, uh, especially the people that marry into other ethnic nationality. People have also pointed to the political people that would easily bring another person from another ethnic nationality for the person to have opportunity to govern within their space. And where we are today, people are asking, are Yoruba too liberal? And that's the big question for you today.
Oh, yeah, thank you. That's a very big question, and it's also a loaded question, but it's also very simple. So we start from looking at liberalism from not from the lingual, English meaning, but in its socio-political and economic meaning. Liberalism essentially means diversity, as it were. In other words, you have a society that accommodates different strands of opinions, different strands of philosophies, anchored on a single purpose, or let me say a singular purpose, that is the development of that society, which will now aid in the development of humanity itself. Because all non-Yoruba that interact with Yoruba are part of the wider human nature. So from what we know of the natural origins of the Yoruba, for example, that liberalism, if looked at in that context, is already written in what I would call the Yoruba DNA. Let's take the one of the famous, or let me say the most acceptable form of the Yoruba people, say Oduduwa. We are
Yeah.
descendants of Oduduwa. Whether he came from heaven to earth, whether he came from the Middle East, whether he came from Benin Kingdom, and whether there were autochthonous people in Yoruba land before he came from any of those places. There are also some historical accounts that say that Oduduwa was actually an autochthonous person in Ife who was a nobleman, but who led some kind of revolution to change the political system. So whichever way you look at it, the same story comes from all of them. That once Oduduwa became the head of
Mhm.
the society, his sons and grandsons were now sent out to, let's say, found other kingdoms and places and all the rest of it. So by that virtue alone, when you have different children going in different places to set up whatever they wanted to set up, whether they met autochthonous people there and conquered them, or whether they were the original settlers, you will see that there is already a diversity. Because I'm just using some towns as example. Someone
Yeah.
went to Ila Orangun, and someone came to Awori land. Definitely, whoever went to Ila will not whoever went to Ila will not whoever went to Ila will not replicate what the one that came to Awori did. It won't be replicated. It will be uh, it will be different. So by the time such things took place, you will discover that the differences, the divergences. Despite those divergences, they still retained that connection. So those divergences actually influenced the connection that they had. So that's why I said in the Yoruba DNA, that question of liberalism is already ingrained. So, I mean, that is what one can call ancient history. But let's look to the current situation, that with all that, all these things happen. Then you will discover that during the colonial period also, we had all our wars and all the rest of it, and all these things also played out. But then that Yoruba essence was still very clear, that despite the wars, despite the the conflicts, they were still able to say, okay, let's forget our differences, let's negotiate this thing, and let's also negotiate with the colonial powers what needs to be done. So you find the Yoruba personnel interacting with the colonial power, interacting with each other, and creating some kind of environment, an enabling environment that was able to create a formal anti-colonial paradigm. Okay, so when the anti-colonial people, I mean, anti-colonial agitations were going on, you've already had organizations like Ibibio Society, Igbo State Union, or Igbo Federal Union, as they used to call it, and some other stuff like that in the South. So let's just limit it to the South, and some other organizations like that. But you never had a single Yoruba organization. We had township organizations who do this, and stuff like that. It was after the collapse of the Nigerian youth movement, when it collapsed, that Chief Awolowo now said, okay, let's take a look at what's going on. That was how Egbe Omo Oduduwa came into being. And it was from Egbe Omo Oduduwa that the whole concept of federalism became ingrained in Nigerian nationalism, because Egbe Omo Oduduwa, as a pan-Yoruba organization, was saying that we need a federal state for Nigeria, for all the various nationalities. And that was where the Awolowo's famous statement, Nigeria is a mere geographical expression. So that's where it came from, although they turned it into a negative thing, his opponents. So you can see that even at the inception of modern politics, that liberalism I mentioned in the DNA, in the Oduduwa days, all through, you find it manifesting, such that by the time the Action Group won the election in 1951 to govern Western Nigeria, you find it also manifesting. That was where the concept of Afenifere came about, because Action Group was the English name of the political party. And then the question is, look, we are Yoruba people. How do we start explaining this? Then they say, Egbe Afenifere. What is Afenifere? Sort of live and let live, a social community, a welfare community. So these are manifestations of liberalism. In other words, we are not a people under one king or one authority, and who must submit to the whims and caprices of that authority. So when even the most powerful kingdom at that time collapsed and everybody went their different ways and stuff like that, Ibadan came up as a military establishment with its own political paradigm. So that's why the difference between how the Oba is chosen in Ibadan is different from the rest of the Yoruba societies, and there was no conflict. So if we now bring it to today, so And even all those times, aside from the places that the original founders went to, there was no instance that I know of, maybe there is that I don't know, where you find Yoruba people trying to invade and conquer other people outside their land. You always find, quote unquote, now foreigners, the Africans, who coming to try to take over Yoruba land. So that so that's why I said it's in the DNA, and it's something to be proud of, and something to yes, to be proud of. The only problem there is that how do we defend it? So it's not a negative thing, it's a positive thing, but the negativity comes in how to defend it so that we can sustain that paradigm in our society, and those who can see the goodness in it can also emulate it, despite all the differences and stuff. So, quickly bringing it to the present, they said there was a report that the Oni of Ife recently appointed one Moremi Odua, conferred the title of Moremi Odua on someone, and Governor Makinde of Oyo State was there, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, there are no parties, there are no this. We are all Yoruba people. We need Yoruba unity and all that and all that." Now, immediately, now that's the story. But my own conclusion to it is, all of you who are in different political parties are there, right, to celebrate the new chief. But immediately you leave the compound of the Oni, your political fight begins.
Yes, sir.
Right. So the question, that's why I mentioned the question of defense. How do we defend that liberalism in such a manner that it did not become negative? Because if you are a Yoruba person, if we are both Yoruba people in different political parties, and you belong to a party that wants to sabotage or subvert what I will call Yoruba values, and I belong to another party that wants to fight against it, the unity is already broken. So unless we are able to make that liberalism a foundational political construct, that is, regardless of anything, no, we will not allow anyone to use us to destroy us. And that's a very tough question, which is also linked to the question of federalism and restructuring we are talking about. Because if we control our political environment, it will not be possible. I mean, they can try it, but it won't be possible for someone to sit down in Sokoto, for example, to try to come and dictate who should be what in Yoruba land. There will be no need for a leader of the West, that is Yoruba land, whether it's a regional premier or regional prime minister, or whatever we decide to call it, to go to Maiduguri to seek support so that he can lead. There will be no need, and there will be no need for vice versa also. So the best way to prevent that liberalism from becoming negative is to have, to use the popular lingo, our self-determination in a federal Nigeria, so that we can control our politics, we can control our everything. Like the Makinde example I mentioned now, he's in PDP, although they are fighting among themselves. You have APC, you have all of them there. So immediately they are all going to start campaigning for who is going to be this, who is going to be that. And we have no control over it. Makinde himself has no control over what happens in his party. Not because he can't, but because the structure of the country and the party itself will prevent him from doing so. So that is what I see as the problem, that there is no problem with the liberalism the political liberalism or even cultural.
Mhm.
Because if, let's say, an Igbo, there's there's one Igbo guy, he's a literary guy who wants to claim to be Ibadan. Why? Because he says he was born and raised in Ibadan. Okay, fine, you are born and raised in, but what's your name? He has an Igbo name. I won't mention his name. So I keep telling him, okay, if you are really Ibadan, you will not have Igbo name. You will have Ibadan or Yoruba name. So by that, you have already decided where you belong. And there's nothing bad in that. So, but we can only get a resolution to prevent the negative if we have political, social, and economic control of our environment. So the danger is not liberalism. The danger is in the structure of Nigeria that is preventing the full manifestation of that liberalism to arise.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alagwafemi Odediyi. So let's look at it this way. Yeah, Yorubas are liberal.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned that, I mean, liberalism is a virtue.
Yeah.
However, is to guide against it becoming negative.
Right.
And you closed on the point that is the structure of Nigeria now that is probably not either making the liberalism negative or not allowing the fullness of that virtue of liberalism to be shown.
Yeah.
If we look at, so because we are not talking within the context of that Nigeria, within that structure,
Right.
and we know that when we have the sort of organized system that we have in Nigeria, where we have different ethnic nationality contesting for power. The ones that could not have economy wants to be the one that is in charge of how things are done. So that brings now to the question of if Yoruba liberalism now is being negative in the sense that there is let's say let's use it as a rough guide. There is something in the air that says Yoruba is under threat.
Right.
Threat in terms of the land area with what is happening now.
Yeah.
Both those that come through the bush, the forests with guns and co, and also the ones that have been reported that are buying up all the places. To the extent that there's one Yoruba social cultural organization that sent a message out telling Yoruba people to stop selling their inheritance or their parents' houses and stuff like that. That it's better they put those on lease rather than selling it outright. So what we have now is that Yoruba is accommodating. They are willing to share and to spread out and to let everyone see each other as belonging to the community. But where there are sort of indications where people are claiming that, yeah, we've been here for like so number of years. We have house here. We are married into this place, so we have the same rights as you. Some will even, I mean, it might be just just a small section that will even flaunt to say that, yeah, we'll buy all your lands and there's nothing that you're going to do. And then now connect that to the last election and what has happened after then, especially in the bill that was proposed then for indigenship, where you have anyone that has lived in in a land, let's say in a land, and we know which land people
Land
go
is full
into,
to
that once they live there for 10
10
years, then they
years.
can have the same rights as the indigene. And there was even a proposal that even if you married into um, that community, then you have the same right as the indigene. Obviously, there were issues, people shouted, criticized, and then it was withdrawn. But for somebody to even think
Think.
of such thing, now the person that put it forward is not from Yoruba.
Yeah.
The two presidential candidates who supported it,
Are not
one way or the
Yoruba.
other, they are not Yoruba. They are from other ethnic communities or nationalities that actually rush en masse into
Yoruba land.
Yoruba space. Should something not be telling us that even if we are liberal, being a virtue, that now we need to guide against it and sort of control our liberalism as Yoruba?
Yes, you are right. But the question is not to control the liberalism, is to control the negative implications. And the reason why I said that is this. Anybody who is contesting for political office in Nigeria, whether local government chairman or governor or senator or whatever, they are not contesting to control their land. They are controlling to get power from Nigeria, because the Nigerian constitution, the Nigerian system already took that power by not giving the what I call the indigenes the right to control their land. So when the Nigerian constitution says states are the federating units, they
Mm.
have already taken that ability away from you. So when you contest, even as a ward councillor, you are not contesting to control or to service your ward. You are contesting as a share of the Nigerian cake, as they call it, because it is that Nigeria that gives your ward the power to run itself. So it's
Mm.
not you are so once you don't have that power, all of these things that we are talking about will come to manifest. That's why we say the problem is the problem is not the liberalism. The
Mm.
problem is controlling its negative impact, and the way the negative survives is by Nigeria surviving as a unitary state, even though they call it Federal Republic of Nigeria, as a unitary state, because it is that state that confers ownership of power in your local environment. It is not you.
Mhm.
When you contest for election as a ward councillor, you are here, you say you are Yoruba, you are a son of the soil, you are this, you are that, but you don't have the power. It is not you are not representing your people. You are
Yeah.
representing your political party that has been given the authority by the Nigerian state to control you. So that is the problem. And that's why we keep saying we should intensify our efforts to make sure that we refederalize Nigeria. And now that we have you mentioned Chief Awolowo, who made his own mark. We mentioned Abiola. We don't know what Abiola will have done. But now we also have
Mhm.
another Yoruba who also says he's a federalist. That this is it's as if God is giving the Yoruba the opportunity to make Nigeria a federal state. And
Mm.
that is what we should be concerned with at this point. And once we are able to do that, well, I mean, there will not be any question of indigenship and citizenship, because you control your space. So now we'll now wait. If we have a Yoruba region, for example, we will now wait for someone to come to Yoruba region and tell us, oh yeah, we must have a law that says that anyone who lives here 10 years, and then we'll see whether that person will will survive the shock. So there are certain things that cannot be done if you are in control. But if you lack control, you lose the control, then anything can be done. And that is what we are being faced with at this time, such that uh, we should we should not degrade our liberalism, but we should degrade the, how do I put it, the effort to make it negative. And the only way it is being made negative is because Nigeria is not a federal state. So once we are able to get that, then we'll be able to, or like give you an example. When during the Western region, when Action Group was in power and they started the federal election, the free education and stuff, they lost election in some places. Now it was the government in power in Western region. They lost election because of the effects of the free education and all that. But 2 years later, when the people that voted against them saw the benefits in other places, they said, come on, let us, they changed their mind and voted for the party. But in this current Nigeria, it's not possible, because once you lose, as we have been saying now, once you lose, you have lost. Whoever is in controlling the center dictates what you do. So we have to, I have to appeal to our people not to lament our liberalism. Our liberalism is not the problem. Any society that is not liberal cannot progress. Then, because you will be so atrophied, you will be so constrained that any outside thing, anything coming from the outside, will seem like a new and better thing to you because you haven't experienced it. So you can't make any comparison. You are only constrained within the confines of what is presented. But if you have that wide, diverse opinions, anything that comes from the outside, you can quickly say, wait, oh no, we are not going there because 1, 2, 3, 4 has happened. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 has happened. You'll be able to make an informed judgment. So it's a good thing. And I don't want our people to be bothered by it. What we should be bothered with is the condition that they are forced on Nigeria, which is the unitary state. Once we are able to address that frontally, then all these, even look at the land use stuff. It's the federal government that took over the land now. I think during Obasanjo's military government, and then they call it land use decree and land use act, and then they said they vested something in the governors. All those things that were not even part of our socio-economic makeup in the first instance. So that act alone, even though vesting certain things in the governor, now takes away the authority of land ownership, even from the communities themselves. So that is the problem, and that is what I think we should focus on now.
Right. Thank you very much, sir. And if I get that right, is that we can't say because some people are taking advantage, then we reduce our value. That we need to keep that value. Yeah. The only thing is to take steps so that it won't be misused.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that, Alagbafemi or Dedi. I think the time is running as usual. One thing that I want to say again, which would be like a question to you, how close are we to a regional system of government? I mean, we can continue that because I know it's going to be a wide one. But just a short one. How close are we? Is this something that will happen tomorrow? Is it something that will happen before the 2027 election? Or should we look further?
Oh boy. Well, I would say I wish it happens tomorrow or even today, but my wish doesn't matter. But how close are we depends on how much pressure we can put on our political leaders to act. You know, like we keep saying, okay, Chief Wole Olanipekun said that they should suspend all the amending and alterations they are doing. We have been saying that all along. The Senate president, who is also a Yoruba, who is also a federalist, said that the National Assembly and the State Assembly can pass laws for good governance and peace and all that and all that. And we have a president who says he's a federalist. So if we have all these things, and we are unable to, even if the leaders are politicians and they have to look at this and that to take decisions, we as a people that are affected need not wait on them. We have to start putting pressure on them. Now they are saying they are going for another round of elections. They'll be campaigning. They are having consensus, this, consensus, that, and all that. But none of them is even talking about that fundamental issue. I'm talking about our politicians who not even those who are not from here. The president, the Senate president, all the governorship aspirants, the current governors, none of them. So if we, the people now, also keep quiet, I'm not saying we shouldn't vote for whoever we want to vote for, but let us make the demand a political issue, an electoral issue. So when somebody stands up and starts saying, remember Wete, we have to tell him that, okay, we remember Wete, but also remember that it was in Ibadan that the question of federalism first of all came into focus. So Wete Ibadan is not only about Wete, where Ibadan was the source, and it was carried out by Yoruba people in 1950. That was where it started, that Nigeria must be a federal system. So it's not just about violence or anything like that. So let's start telling our political leaders the political truth that they may know, but because of political this and that, they may want to run away from. So I think because of time, maybe you can continue later next week. Let me stop there. Thank you.
Definitely we'll continue next week about how close we are to a regional system or some form of reconstitution of Nigeria. So thank you very much for those that have joined us on the program today and those that will be watching us. Remember, you could send a message to us to yorubaref@gmail.com. But please do follow our YouTube, do like and share. God bless.